So, Duncan, why is now the time to strike a new balance when it comes to offshore charter parties?
I think we've seen the last 4 years create tremendous impairments on vessel owners. It's unsustainable, and as we bounce along the bottom of the last couple of years, we would assume there is a recovery coming. And as we get into that recovery, we need to make sure that we maintain the terms that existed in the previous norm and make sure that we don't carry on with erroneous charter terms.
One of the things referenced was the unnatural death of knock for knock.
Yeah, this always bemuses me why that should be. Ultimately, everybody wins with knock for knock. In effect, what's happening now is owners are having to take on massive insurance liabilities, which cost money. And that's money that ultimately will go as a running cost, which will end up affecting the project. It makes sense to get back to the basics and the understanding of why knock for knock exists.
Is termination for convenience too convenient?
Yes, it is. It's unfair in some cases. We need to make sure that it's practical. Just to off-hire a vessel because it can be off-hired. This isn't a taxi operation. This is multi-million-dollar assets that we're operating, and people need to have a fair return. And if a vessel has to off-hire for whatever reason, there should be a payment to compensate for that.
There seemed to be wholehearted agreement in the room that charter party terms should be reinstated, but there's also scepticism about the percentage of success that could be really realised when it comes to these terms actually being reinstated industry-wide.
Yeah, I understand why there's scepticism, but I think if people stand back and think about the reasons for terms, everyone should ultimately agree that any commercial benefit comes out in the day rate. The market will dictate what the day rate is. But in most of these charter party terms, it's a win-win for both the client and for the ship owner. They were structured that way in the first place.
That said, how many fixtures do you think your company's walked away from?
An actual number is hard to say, but we definitely don't accept all terms, especially if there's unlimited liabilities.
Now, there was some discussion around what normal payment terms actually means. Is it 30 days from the end of the month of invoice or something else?
Yeah, I think this is a very important issue as payment terms. They've gradually eroded from 30 days to 45 days, and we're hearing 70 days is becoming the new norm. This is the working capital to the relatively small ship owner versus the large oil company. It makes no good sense to penalise the ship owners even more because, again, this will just add to their costs. To compensate for that loss of working capital, they'll have to charge a higher day rate. In a perfect world, I think pre-funding works, and I've experienced pre-funding, and much as that would have been the norm maybe 20 years ago, I'm very pleased to say that we actually signed a charter party last week with pre-funding. First time I've seen it in a long time.
You spoke very positively about your experience working in Australia.
Yes, I think the words that people use in Australia is pay us in time so that I can pay them in time. And that's how the wheels of commerce turn. When you get into litigation and slow-paying debts of 180 days, the amount of work that goes into recovering those debts ultimately makes the work not worth having had in the first place. And in the Australian business environment, it's very mature, and the wheels of commerce do turn well with people paying on time.
To anyone who says this is all noble sentiment, but actually it's likely to get worse before it gets better, what would you say?
Yeah, I wouldn't be too emotive about it. I would say let's identify the problem, let's educate the next generation of employees and managers coming into the industry and make sure that they don't think that today is the norm. We need to get back to fair terms and conditions.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Ed.